Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Joshua Merritt, and I used to believe in control. I believed that if you planned carefully, lived modestly, and loved loyally, life would reward you. I believed numbers don't lie. But people do. I was 45 when everything I thought I knew about love, partnership, and trust collapsed in the time it took to answer a phone call. That Tuesday evening started like any other. I was sitting at the kitchen counter reviewing client portfolios. I'm a financial planner by trade. My firm, Merritt Capital Group, manages high net worth accounts for conservative investors. Steady growth, risk managed. Nothing flashy. Just smart numbers. My wife, Danica, was supposedly at a pharmaceutical sales conference in San Diego. We'd been married for 12 years. We had no kids, just 2 rescued cats, a shared investment portfolio, and what I assumed was a quietly aging love. When my phone rang and I saw her name, I smiled. I even thought, maybe she's calling to say she misses me. But her voice was detached. Professional. Josh, I need to tell you something. I'm not coming home. At first, I didn't understand. What's going on? It's Russell, she said. My boss. My heart didn't stop. It simply slowed, as if my body was trying to give me time to catch up to the betrayal. It's been going on for a while, she continued. He understands me. He sees my potential. Then the real blow landed. I've already transferred our investments. My lawyer said it was the smart move. The investment account, the one I'd built slowly over a decade, compounding gains, reinvesting dividends, $212,000, gone. Or so she thought. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I said 3 words, I understand, Danica. And then I ended the call. I didn't look at the wall. I looked at my laptop. 6 months earlier, I'd started noticing the signs. Dinners that didn't line up with her schedule. Trips that seemed too convenient. Hotel receipts that didn't match company bookings. And a call from Russell P. at 11:03 p.m. one night when she said she was in bed. I didn't accuse her. I didn't confront her. I opened a spreadsheet. She never knew I'd quietly moved our primary investments into a private trust in my name. The joint account I let her access only held a fraction, just enough to seem normal. The withdrawal she'd initiated. It triggered a dual authorization flag. Meaning, I had to approve it. And I hadn't. Not yet. I watched the little text on the screen blink, pending. Danica and I met 15 years ago. She was working her way up in a pharmaceutical firm. I was rebuilding my firm after the 2008 crash. She was dazzling, ambitious, social, a chameleon in cocktail parties. I was analytical. Precise. She said I grounded her. I thought she gave me fire. We built a life. Bought a house in the Highlands. Went to Aspen on anniversaries. Built the investment plan she just tried to steal. But cracks started forming after we tried to have kids. I was the problem. My fertility tests made that clear. She cried in the parking lot of the clinic, then threw herself into work harder than ever. The intimacy faded. The distance grew. And then, suddenly, everything Russell touched at her company included her. He believes I'm underutilized, she'd say. I should have listened closer. When Danica hung up that night, she thought she'd won. She thought she'd taken my money, my dignity, and my future. But all she'd done was light the match. The fire? That was mine. After Danica's call, the silence in the house was brutal. I sat in the same chair, staring at the same blinking screen, with a glass of bourbon untouched beside me. The air felt heavier. The walls closer. She didn't just leave. She gutted our life like it was a failed business acquisition. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I reread every digital receipt, every travel itinerary, every spreadsheet entry I'd cataloged in the last 6 months. I had the truth, but now it was sharp. Real. And personal. By dawn, I realized something. The person I'd loved had been replaced by a stranger wearing her skin. At 9 a.m., my phone buzzed again. This time it was her friend, Chelsea, who also worked at the same pharma company. Danica had asked her to stop by and pick up a few things. I let her in. Chelsea looked uncomfortable, eyes darting, lips pressed together. She said just the jewelry box and winter clothes, she mumbled. I handed her the box. I didn't say a word until she turned to leave. She's with Russell, isn't she? Chelsea froze. Her fingers tightened on the leather handle of the suitcase. She told me it was serious. 8 months now. 8 months. Nearly a year of sleeping next to me while planning her escape. She said, "You'd understand," Chelsea added quietly. I didn't. I never would. And then she asked the real question. She wanted me to check if the wire transfer went through. There it was. Not a goodbye. Not a note. Just a mercenary sent to retrieve goods and check the balance sheet. I opened the laptop and turned it toward her. Pending approval, I said. Chelsea's eyes widened. She thought it was done. I nodded. She always did underestimate me. After she left, I went straight to the office. I needed something familiar, numbers, logic, order. By lunch, I was at my attorney's office, Harold Levin, a shark in a 3-piece suit who'd represented me during a past partnership split. He didn't blink when I handed him a folder of emails, receipts, and documents. She's trying to drain the joint account, I told him. Let her try, Harold said, flipping through the pages. This is marital abandonment, financial misconduct, and emotional cruelty. Colorado may be a no-fault state, but this evidence. It talks. He looked up from the folder. How far are you willing to go? I swallowed hard. All the way. That night, Danica called me 12 times. I didn't answer. On the 4th day, she let herself in using the key she never returned. I walked in from work and found her standing in the kitchen like nothing had happened, perfect hair, cold eyes, and trembling hands holding her phone. What did you do? She hissed. The bank blocked the transfer. No, I corrected. I blocked it. You can't do that. It's our money. No, Danica. It was ours. Until you tried to steal it. She launched into her rehearsed narrative, how she was confused, emotional, how it didn't mean what I thought, how Russell was just someone who listened. Half that money is mine, she finally screamed. I pointed to the bank's email she'd shoved in my face. You can tell that to the judge. When she saw I wasn't going to budge, she turned to rage. Russell was right. You're a boring coward. Always hiding behind spreadsheets and tax shelters. Then she threw a photo frame against the wall, our wedding picture from Aspen. The glass cracked like a gunshot. I didn't flinch. Leave the key on the table, I said calmly. This isn't over, she warned. She was right. It wasn't. After she left, I sat down and made a single phone call, to Harold. She came to the house. We'll file in the morning, he said. Restraining order too, if you want it. I hesitated. I don't want to ruin her, I said. Harold was quiet. Then he said, that's the mistake she made, Joshua. She thought you wouldn't fight. The next morning, a legal packet was filed, formal petition for divorce, request to block access to all jointly held financial assets, and notification to Lenara Pharmaceuticals about potential misconduct involving Russell and Danica. Let the games begin. 3 days after Danica stormed out of our home, I was starting to feel like I could breathe again. That is, until an unmarked envelope arrived at my office. Inside, a USB drive. No note. No sender. Just a small black device that could have come from anywhere. I plugged it into my laptop, fully expecting petty threats or maybe even a virus. What I found was far more dangerous. Over 70 emails. Some between Danica and Russell. Some between Russell and someone named Jessica Harlow, Lenara's HR director. Dates. Times. Attachments. My heart pounded as I opened the first few. Russell. Once you're out of that deadweight marriage, we'll move forward. Miami office director title. It's all lined up. Danica. Joshua is still in the way. I've tried getting him to cash out, but he's too cautious. I need a backdoor. Another email from Russell to a personal Gmail address. Use her logins. She has level 3 clearance. We need those files by Monday. Files? What files? I clicked through the next dozen emails, until I landed on the one that made me sit back in my chair. Confidential pharmaceutical data. Trial results. Development reports. Entire folders sent from Danica's corporate account to Russell's personal one. This wasn't just infidelity. This was industrial espionage. An hour later, a message pinged my phone. From unknown number. Betrayal Cafe. 2 p.m. It's about Danica. Come alone. Something told me to ignore it. But something stronger, curiosity, perhaps closure, forced me to go. At 2:04 p.m., I walked into Betrayal Cafe and spotted a woman in a tailored navy suit seated alone, scanning the room. She raised her hand. Joshua? Who's asking? Jessica Harlow. HR at Lenara. We've met before at the holiday party. Danica introduced us. I sat down, arms crossed. She didn't order a drink. Just slid a sealed envelope across the table and whispered, "This never happened." What is this? I asked. Everything, she said. Emails, logs, access reports. Russell's done this before. Danica isn't the first. Probably not the last. You're saying this is, what? Normal? No. I'm saying his father is on the board. They cover it up, until now. I stared at her. Why are you helping me? Because I'm sick of cleaning up Russell's messes, she said. And because your wife crossed a line. She didn't just sleep with him. She handed over secure R&D data, stuff we haven't even filed patents on. Jessica stood to leave, but before she did, she said something that stuck with me. He uses women. Promises them power, burns their lives down, and moves on. Danica? I asked. She's just the latest chapter. Then she was gone. That night, I reviewed every byte of data she gave me. It confirmed everything. Danica had shared Lenara's confidential drug research. She used her clearance level to access servers she had no business being in. Russell forwarded the data to his off-site contacts. Some of those files had already been leaked, to competitors. And Danica? She thought she was getting a corner office in Miami. But she was just a pawn. I looked at one final message from Russell to another colleague. We don't need Joshua. Just get what you can from her before she figures out she's not going anywhere. My hands shook. Not from rage, but from clarity. They weren't just trying to leave me behind. They were using her to destroy me, too. But I'd been playing the long game all along. The next morning, I met with Harold again and showed him the evidence. He leafed through the printouts, eyes wide. This changes everything. I don't want her in jail, I said. I want leverage. Harold gave a small nod. Then we use this to negotiate. She walks away quietly. We don't press charges. And Russell? I asked. Harold's smile didn't reach his eyes. Russell's a different story. The moment I walked out of Harold's office with that folder under my arm, I stopped being a victim. That night, I sat at my desk and planned, not just how to win, but how to make sure they never tried this with anyone again. Because this wasn't just about a divorce anymore. It was about the system that allowed predators like Russell to use people and throw them away. And it was about the woman I once loved, who had every chance to do right by me, and chose betrayal instead. So, I outlined my plan in 3 simple steps. 1. Cut her out. 2. Use the evidence. 3. End Russell. By Monday morning, the wheels were in motion. Harold drafted a new divorce settlement offer. It was brutally simple. Danica would relinquish all claims to the marital assets. She would receive a one-time settlement of $50,000, and nothing more. She must sign a non-disclosure agreement covering her involvement at Lenara. She must vacate the house within 14 days. No alimony. No property disputes. No contact. Attached to the offer was a single email from the USB drive, just enough to show what we had, but not the full deck. We gave her 48 hours to respond. Her lawyer, a smug silver-haired man named Carlton Hayes, replied that same day. This is absurd. Your client is offering practically nothing. My client, Harold replied calmly, is offering something your client desperately needs. Carlton scoffed. What? Silence. Harold didn't blink. Exactly. Danica was silent for most of the meeting, flipping through the papers like she didn't recognize her own name. Then she looked up, eyes burning. You're blackmailing me. I leaned forward, my voice quiet but steady. No, Danica. I'm protecting myself, from you. She laughed bitterly. You were always so dull, Joshua. So safe. I needed someone with ambition. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Because she'd traded safety for seduction, and walked straight into a trap of her own making. Back at the office, I moved on to phase 2, Russell. The man had no idea who he was playing with. He thought I was just the accountant. What he didn't know was that the thumb drive also contained proof of corporate espionage. Screenshots, access logs, data transmission reports, all from Danica's account to his. But I wasn't going to send it to the FBI. Not yet. Instead, I created a new email account, attached 3 carefully chosen documents, and sent them anonymously to Lenara's CEO, their compliance department, and 3 board members. Subject line. You need to see what Russell Phillips has been doing behind your back. No threats. No commentary. Just facts. Let the house burn from the inside. Within days, things started moving fast. Danica's lawyer accepted the revised settlement with one condition, that we never release the evidence. Harold agreed. But he reminded them, this agreement only binds us legally. It says nothing about internal corporate action. I could see the fear flash across Danica's face when she realized Russell wasn't protected by the same shield. She had sold me out for a man who would be out of a job within a week. The day she signed the papers, Danica wouldn't even look at me. As she slid the last page across the table, she said, "You never fought for me." I met her gaze. No. I just didn't fight dirty. Until now. She left with her $50,000 check, a box of clothes, and the kind of silence that weighs more than words ever could. 3 days later, the Denver Post ran a small article buried on page 6. Pharmaceutical executive resigns amid internal investigation. No reason listed. No quotes. Just that Russell Phillips was no longer employed by Lenara Pharmaceuticals. A whisper to the world that something had gone terribly wrong. I stared at the paper and smiled. Not a vengeful smile. Just satisfaction. A balance sheet corrected. The day after Russell's resignation made the papers, my inbox lit up with messages from former colleagues, clients, even a few of Danica's old friends. Did you hear? What happened to him? Rumor is, someone handed over emails. I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I was being evasive, but because I didn't need credit. Sometimes, justice doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs to happen. Danica, though, didn't take it as quietly. She texted me. I know it was you. I didn't respond. And that silence. That's what rattled her the most. She was used to having the upper hand. Used to manipulating people until they gave her what she wanted. But now. She was locked out of the accounts. Out of the house. And out of my life. A week later, I met with Harold to finalize the terms of the divorce. He handed me a document. Melanie took a job with a small distributor in Phoenix, he said. Entry-level sales. Low commission. High turnover. I blinked. Phoenix. She sold her BMW to cover rent. The $50,000 won't last long at her spending pace. I expected to feel triumphant. Instead, I felt nothing. No hate. No rage. No joy. Just closure. Like watching the final number fall into place on a complicated equation. Balanced. Done. Meanwhile, Lenara Pharmaceuticals reached out. Not to sue me. But to offer me a job. The email came from Jessica Harlow, the same HR director who handed me the thumb drive. Subject line, a proposal during our restructuring. Inside was a formal offer to join Lenara's new financial compliance division. Apparently, they were reforming leadership standards and seeking ethical advisors. I laughed out loud when I read it. They didn't just want to clean up the mess. They wanted me to build the system that made sure it never happened again. I accepted the next day. Weeks passed. The new job gave me purpose again. Control. My team called me the firewall. I took it as a compliment. Then one afternoon, an email came from someone I hadn't heard from in months. Vanessa, Danica's old friend. Hey Josh, I thought you should know. Russell dumped her. She's struggling. Can't hold down the new job. Asked about you. I told her I wouldn't discuss your life. Just thought you'd want to know. V. I sat back in my chair, rereading her message. Danica's life had unraveled. But not because I ruined it. Because she bet everything on a man who only used her, and lost. I stood up, walked to the window of my office, and looked out at the Denver skyline. This view was mine now. The house. Sold. The trust. Safe. And the money Danica tried to steal. Now quietly funding scholarships for students studying financial ethics. Poetic justice in a world full of predators. I thought it was over. The legal battles were done. The house was sold. Danica was out of my life. Russell was disgraced. I was rebuilding, not just my career, but my peace. Then, one morning, a manila envelope landed on my doorstep. No postage. No return address. Just my name typed in block letters. Inside. A flash drive. And a note. You deserve to know what she almost did. There was no signature. I plugged it into my work laptop, cautiously, behind firewalls and layers of security. The contents. Video files. Surveillance footage. At first, it looked like generic hotel lobby cams. But then I saw her, Danica, walking across the screen, arm in arm with Russell. Timestamp, 7 months before the divorce. But what came next twisted my stomach into knots. The footage cut to a private hotel suite. Russell was pacing, agitated. Danica sat on the edge of the bed, visibly shaken. I told you it wouldn't work, she snapped. You were supposed to get the passwords. Russell barked back. I couldn't. He moved the accounts. He's not stupid, Russell. Then what good are you? She froze. Excuse me. You think I was going to make you director material? Danica, you're a sales rep, a tool. That's all you ever were. She stood, slapped him hard. He grabbed her wrist. She pulled away and screamed, You used me. He leaned in, sneering. You let me. I paused the video. The air in my lungs turned to ice. This wasn't just betrayal. This was abuse. Emotional. Psychological. Possibly physical. Danica hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been a victim, too. And then, a third voice entered the frame. Female. Off camera. You're both done. The camera shook as someone walked in holding a phone. Security badge visible. Hidden camera on her lapel. Jessica. The HR director. The footage cut again. Next, it showed Russell being escorted from Lenara's headquarters by two men in suits, FBI jackets faintly visible. Another file. An audio recording. Jessica's voice. We've been watching him for 2 years. Danica was bait. You were collateral. I'm sorry, Joshua. Another audio file. Danica, crying during an interview. He said he'd destroy Josh if I didn't help. He said no one would believe me if I changed my mind. Another. Jessica again. We offered her protection. She refused. Said she'd rather lose everything than admit what she'd done. I sat in silence. For 20 minutes. I thought I had been the victim. That I'd pulled off the perfect revenge. But now. Everything was upside down. Danica had been manipulated. Groomed. Used. She betrayed me, yes. But she was broken long before she left. And she'd paid for it more than I ever intended. That night, I poured a drink and stared out at the mountains from my back deck. I didn't know how to feel. Angry? Relieved? Guilty? All I knew was that the revenge was over. The justice had already happened. And no one truly won. There's a strange quiet that follows a storm. Not peace, exactly. Not relief. Just the absence of noise. After I watched the last frame of that surveillance footage, after I heard Danica's voice breaking as she confessed everything, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I just sat. And tried to figure out whether I'd been the villain in someone else's tragedy. The next morning, I met with Jessica Harlow, this time at Lenara headquarters, not a coffee shop or shady hotel corner. Her office was clean. Minimalist. Sharp, just like her. You saw everything? She asked. I nodded. Danica was being manipulated. I get that now. Jessica tilted her head. You still could have buried her. You didn't. I looked her straight in the eye. Because I'm not Russell. She studied me for a long moment, then slid an envelope across the desk. What's this? Her resignation. She's leaving the pharmaceutical world entirely. Teaching night classes in Arizona. Is she okay? Jessica hesitated. She's alive. And maybe, freer than she's been in years. I nodded. That was enough. The next few months moved like molasses, slow, steady, healing. I sold the last of our shared possessions. Moved into a new home with nothing she ever touched. Started a new morning routine, coffee, sunrise, and silence. Not revenge. Rebuilding. And then one spring evening, I received a letter. A real one. Handwritten. From Danica. Joshua. I don't expect forgiveness. And I won't make excuses. You didn't deserve what I did. You never did. But I wanted you to know. I was never acting out of hate. I was acting out of fear. Russell saw the cracks in me that even I ignored. And he filled them with promises. But you? You were the one who actually gave me a life worth living. You were the real thing. I just wasn't ready to be that person. I hope you find someone who is. Be well. Danica. I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer. Not out of sentiment. But as a reminder. Not every villain starts that way. And not every victim stays broken. 1 year to the day after Danica left, I stood in the lobby of Lenara, now fully appointed as head of financial compliance and ethics. We had launched a scholarship fund, ironically funded by the very trust Danica had tried to steal. It supported students pursuing careers in financial law and corporate accountability. We called it the Clear Ledger Grant. And I didn't name it after myself. Because it wasn't about ego. It was about making sure the cycle stopped. I don't hate Danica. Not anymore. In the end, I wasn't defined by her betrayal. I was refined by it. Because survival isn't just about getting even. It's about getting clear. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.